Today we're joined by Dr. Swathi Balaji, who's an associate professor of surgery at the Baylor College of Medicine. She's the recipient of a number of prestigious awards, including the Anita Roberts Award, the Rinsberg Memorial Fund Fellowship Award, the Paul Ehrlich Rising Star and Wound Healing Award, and is being featured today because she's the recipient of the Mid-Career Faculty Award at the most recent Wound Healing Society meeting. And of course, I'm delighted to also be joined by Mitch Sanders. And we just want to talk with Swathi about how all her research is going and all the exciting things that she's going to introduce us to in spring, and a little bit more about why she was recognized for such a prestigious honor. So Swathi, why don't you give us a little bit of your story in wound healing? I believe you first went into it around your postdoc time and at Cincinnati. Do you want to give us a little bit of an insight into what brought you into the wound healing field?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me, on this fireside chat, getting to know session. As you mentioned, I started my career as a mechanical engineer, and I got my master's from University of Cincinnati, and got exposed to biomedical engineering while I was still doing my master's program, but ended up going to Caterpillar to work as a design engineer. And I think that's where I realized I needed to be more investigative, in the sense that, I want to learn about how to make impact on human health. So I came back, got my PhD in biomedical engineering, and met phenomenal mentors. My PhD mentor, Daria, she was working on a lot of cardiology projects, but I think she gave a challenge to me. My goal was to be a biomaterial scientist in tissue regeneration, tissue engineering, and she challenged me with, coming up with potential new alternatives for the peptide that she already was working on, and she had patented it for improving neovascularization in cardiac tissue. Mm-hmm. So that's how I think we got started. And at the same time, I think we were devastated to know about some of the family members having wounds. These diabetic wounds it's a hidden endemic. I feel like, people that suffer it, they know how bad they are, but it's almost like a taboo. There are no people. There is no society supporting, like with candlelight vigils, like how we do for cancer patients or for rare diseases. Nobody is doing that for diabetic patients, but it's a big persistent problem. So I started, so Daria and we started on that pathway of, could we be doing regenerative biomaterials for improving diabetic wound healing, particularly neovascularization. And I think around that time, we met with Dr. Tim Cromwell, who just moved his lab from CHOP to Cincinnati Children's. And we started this collaborative work, and which was in 2007. I had just started my PhD, and since then we did wonderful work. We showed that the biomaterials, they provide this environment to even correct the endothelial cells and the fibroblast cells that are predisposed to diabetes-related pathology or change in phenotype. But providing the right environment can kind of revert some of their diabetic memory and make them behave more like normal cells. I studied wound healing in mice, and I graduated from Daria's lab. She's continued to work on that in porcine wounds now. And when I graduated, I was really intrigued by the mechanistic side of things. So my engineering was spent more on material development and proving that the materials work. For my postdoctoral work, I was really intrigued by how it's working, what are the underlying mechanisms. And I kept constantly hearing the words, the machinery is there, we just need to give it the right triggers to jumpstart regenerative programming. So I joined Tim Crommelholm and Sundeep Kaswani at Cincinnati Children's as a postdoctoral fellow in their labs, and been in wound healing since then, from 2007 to now. And it's been a wonderful journey. I love what the society do to people, take them from early career, provide the right kind of tools, right kind of mentorship and pathways to find their niche and excel in it. It's been a tremendous 20-year journey.
It's a really great group of people. I find it so much fun, and it's been really fun being able to collaborate with you on a couple of projects as well. And what I'm amazed at, you started as a mechanical engineer kind of background undergrad, right? And then went to kind of more biomedical engineering and really shaped your career. But starting on, being an engineer for Caterpillar and then saying, I don't know, maybe I'll do human health. It's pretty amazing.
No, but I brought back those principles now with me. So this has been the journey. We talked about how I ended up being fully trained. So when I came back to my to set up my lab in Texas Children's in the Department of Surgery, it was an amazing opportunity. They gave a very generous starter package. So the idea was to combine this background knowledge I had in a little bit of mechanical forces, modeling, finite element modeling, and biomaterials, and start trying to understand how this changes in the force fuels the cells to either pick a pathway to regenerate or to form scars. So in my current lab, that's been the focus, to study what are these driving forces behind patient heterogeneity, even in physiologic scarring, because as you guys know, and if you can appreciate, a simple wound on each one of us made exactly in the same anatomical location, same size, treated similarly, can completely have very different outcomes. Some of us can have poor scars, some of us can heal beautifully without even scarring.
It's even worse than that. So I see patients in these clinical trials that have 3 wounds. They're very close together. They have different etiologies. They're healing differently. One's infected, one's not infected. It's just amazing how you can be, less than 5 centimeters away from a secondary wound and it's behaving completely differently.
Yeah. I really like your story because we're seeing it obviously across the wound healing spectrum, that other fields that would not conventionally be interested in wounds are now turning the fundamental principles onto that problem. And we see it a lot in the chemical engineering field. People are looking at wounds as a mass balance problem now. What metabolites are going in, versus what's coming out, what's happening in the interim. And I think that there was this idea going around when I was in graduate school about something called the shadow biosphere, which is like all the biology that's around us, which we're not aware of because we're not measuring it, right? You only see what you look for. And I really think that the fact that all of these other fields that are not conventionally interested in the biology of a wound are now turning their interest to it, I think you're a perfect example of how we're going to start cracking that shell open to see all the stuff that we've been missing, because mechanical forces have been very difficult to measure for a very long time, and how biology interfaces with those mechanical forces and so on is it's a new frontier. And you've been in wound healing 2-3 times longer than me, even in the short period of time that I've been in it. I specifically wasn't talking about you yet, Mitch, because I don't want to get into the tens. But no, it's even in the last I've been in wound healing for like 7 years. Even in that relatively short period of time, it's changed tremendously. And so you've certainly seen, even in you're in the mid-career, even just in that relatively short period of time, you've seen a huge change. So where do you think?
I think we have so many tools now. Some of these questions, like the fundamental questions we ask about regeneration or mitochondrial metabolism and mechanical forces. I think these have been there. People have observed them, documented them a long time ago, like, almost 40, 50 years ago. But I think now we have the tools to integrate these different fields, study something at a very microscopic level. You have all the tools at your disposal: single cell sequencing, metabolomics, proteomics, and you can scale it up to spatial levels now. Things have become much more cheaper as well, more accessible, more cheaper, more faster. And you have the bioinformatics teams to put all of these large amounts of data together to make meaningful contacts. So I feel like the things that we've always known, we now have the means to study them effectively. And I think that's what is bringing the different fields together as well, because everybody can see a role. Mass spec, we use it as a tool for wound healing, but there's been so much innovation in the background by chemists and engineers to develop those right kind of tools. So I feel the next decade, thing is, for the diabetic wounds, there's not been a real new therapeutic in almost 2 decades. So what I am hopeful is
it's coming. So
it's coming. It's faster.
The other cool thing on my side in industry is that wound care, 20, 30 years ago when I started was not cool. A lot of pharma companies tried to go into wound care. They didn't know what a run-in phase was. And, they started with pressure ulcers and they started turning the patients and the negative controls started healing, right? And so a lot of people shied away from wound care and said, oh, we don't understand it. It's so complex. We don't have, but now we're starting to really understand the mechanism of action of all these different kinds of camp cellular, acellular matrix-like products and really understand, you can cover a wound, but you may not heal it. You may still not prevent recurrence. And now we can look at, elasticity, moisture, vapor transmission rate. We can do so many things that we couldn't do before. And I just love the idea that we can, we look at 300 probes at once and we can compare products side by side in a diabetic mouse or now a pig or a human and try and replicate before it was sometimes really hard to replicate what you see in the mouse to human. Now we're seeing perfect corollaries. And the other thing is, I love that the porcine code set is very similar to human. So I made a human porcine code set. I just had to spike it with more pig genes, and then it was pig probes for the RNA, and then we could have a double code set in one. And now I'm trying to do that for rabbit. But tell me more about how many people in your lab, what new projects are you doing, where do you think your lab's going next?
So we intentionally we don't have a very large lab. I like to have first of all, this is a lab that Sandeep and I has built from ground up. When we moved from Cincinnati to Houston, we got an empty base, huge lab, 12,000 square foot, which we developed ground up. And the idea was to make it a very wound-centric core facility. So if you had a wild idea of, okay, I want to do 3D printing of something, new biomaterial, and then I want to apply it in the wound and then see how the wound healing outcomes look like and do everything in-house, we are capable to do all of that stuff. Cool. From surgeries to harvest to histology to sequencing at a smaller scale. And the idea was to have a lab where we have people at different levels of expertise. So there are research technicians who are very well trained. They've been in the field for almost 20, 30 years now. And I always have a surgery resident and a surgery fellow because I think they bring a surgical insight. Yeah. And some of the things, what's frustrating to what's something that you need to deal with, absolutely. We don't have to come up with those questions. They've lived those experiences. So it's nice to have surgery residents and surgery fellows. And I always have a postdoc maybe plus or minus graduate students, depending on which year we're talking about, and always undergrads. And during summer, I recruit multiple high school students, and it's been such a refreshing experience to have these young minds come to the lab. So we have about eight to 10 people in the lab, sometimes a little bit bigger, sometimes maybe a little smaller. But I love to have this diverse experiences and training levels, so we can ask fun questions. Everybody is, a little bit more curious. And the projects, I think we organically grew. In the beginning, the focus was on skin wound healing and studying the two ends of the spectrum. So we really wanted to study the fetal regenerative mechanisms. So we used the fetal murine models and compared them with adult models to study the fibroblast phenotypes, the extracellular matrix, and the lymphocytes, what is happening to the immune system, and how that immune fibroblast crosstalk is shaping the wound milieu, and what is this trifecta, crosstalk, how is that driving regeneration? And from there, I think, like Jordan mentioned, wound healing is just so applicable to so many different things. There was the question we wanted to ask was, are there fundamental mechanisms that we can take from skin and apply to other organ fibrosis models? So that truly led us to go into different organ systems through collaborations. So we studied a little bit of kidney fibrosis and lung fibrosis, and it turns out some of these mechanisms are absolutely conserved, particularly how the ECM regulates fibroblasts, and what is that the mechanisms that the body engage to protect itself almost in the beginning, and which cannot be sustained. And I think that's what we identified. The fetal wounds, they're able to keep up with that demand. They produce the high molecular weight hyaluronan. The fibroblast metabolism is different, whereas in the adult wounds, you see like a spike in the mechanism in those responses early on in the wounds, but it's not able to keep up, and then it progresses into regeneration. So we came up with a lot of tools, gene therapy and ECM materials to promote a fetal-like environment in the adult tissue. And from there, I think we spread, and then we now want to go deeper into understanding the mechanisms. And the crux of the lab is understanding the fibroblast lymphocyte interactions and the heterogeneity among the fibroblasts themselves, the metabolic differences, and how mechanical forces influence these wounds. And during this course of trying to study the metabolism, we are also working on new tools, new approaches to then regulate the metabolic phenotype. So I've been working with a collaborator in LSU, Louisiana State University, who has these really cool nanoparticles made with lignin. And they are naturally antioxidant, antimicrobial. So we are trying to develop new materials to put them in different patient wounds to see if that changes the metabolic phenotype and promote regeneration. And also apply them into diabetic wounds to see if it can promote antimicrobial properties without causing resistance. So I think the crux is understanding the ECM fibroblast and lymphocyte interactions, but use a lot of tools, biomaterials, 3D printing, and a lot of animal work.
Which printer do you have? 3D printer?
So we do have selling. That's the main,
BioX or the
BioX.
I always wanted to regenerate. I was trying to regenerate cartilage tissue and have all the layers. It was hard to really print as many layers as I wanted. It was like a very kid's version of what cartilage structure looks like. and I was trying to get all the cell layers and everything, and I couldn't print thin enough to do all the things I wanted to do. And I had all these great ideas of building my own scaffolds for everything, but then we just got really good at just printing biofilms, and we just do that. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Swathi, I don't know if it was in spring or if it was last year. I remember you gave a talk on like magnesium wires, magnesium nanowires, or something like that. Are you still continuing that work? I thought it was such an interesting. We see everyone's doing growth factors and matrices, and then here you come with these like metal wires, and they were very clearly orienting the architecture of the healing wound, and that stuck with me. So I'm excited to know if there's new developments in that space. Are you gonna?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm so glad you brought up this project. I almost forgot about it because we just sent the paper out. So
Oh, that's great.
it's for a very brief, like a week now, it's been out of my mind. And so this started as a collaboration, like out of nowhere. One of the faculty members, while we were still in Cincinnati, Cincinnati was part of a huge consortium where they developed, as part of NSF ERC, magnesium and specifically biomedical applications for pure magnesium. And one of the faculty members, she worked on developing these magnesium and magnesium zinc alloys. And the idea was to make it as pure as possible with very minimal rare earth combinations, if possible, and promote regeneration. And magnesium, I mean, it's a enzyme for so many different cofactors needed for wound healing. And people have shown in the past it promotes nerve regeneration, promotes vessel growth, capillary development. But there was never a consensus because delivering magnesium, first of all, it's not as pure. And then when you combine it with polymers or other alloys, metals, you just don't know what you're getting. And sometimes it helps, sometimes, the outcomes were inconclusive or even bad. So when she did these wires, and she wanted to study, are there wound healing applications? And with the idea that if you perfect the delivery of this pure magnesium in the form of metal, and combine that with the ability, within our chemical engineering department at Cincinnati, to make this into different forms, whether it is wires or sheets with different kinds of laser etching, so you could really get the type of coverage you want, and also serve different types of wounds. So we drew magnesium into wires, so you can imagine it can be like a suture material. If you have deeper wounds going all the way through muscle, you can pull the muscle together, and then you can put the magnesium in the form of sheets to cover the wound. That's how the idea started. And we put the magnesium in the wound, really cut magnesium wires, put them in excisional wounds. It was remarkable that the wounds were healing slightly faster. I won't say it was dramatically different because we tested them in wild-type mice, which are programmed to heal normally, or the fastest. But what we noted was there was no foreign body reaction, and there was a significant improvement in overall vascularization, even in these normal wounds. That's or great. Normal mice, change in infiltration of the macrophage phenotypes. And ultimately, when we took these wounds to day 28, we saw that a lot of the mechanical properties of the wound were restored. to its normal strength. There was a collagen remodeling that looked more like normal skin, impact on hair follicle regeneration. So we just published the paper, and the idea is now to take it to the next level. Understand, when you put these wires in the wounds, it's obviously changing the mechanical milieu within the wound. So I'm collaborating with a faculty member at Rice University. He does a lot of these modeling of materials that biodegrade in real time, because this material, right, as it's degrading, you need to be able to work out what kind of mechanical field it's creating and what kind of chemical changes could be possible based on its elution rates. So we are working with faculty at Rice and Cincinnati to take this to the next level. And we have these crazy ideas submitted in R01. It got good, decent score, but not fundable. So the idea is to draw these, not keep them as wires, but make them into sheets with different porosities and different thicknesses, and put them in diabetic wounds to improve diabetic wound healing.
Could you put them in like a foam silicone in between the silicone and foam dressing, so that you could kind of direct everything, but kind of keep it out of so it'd be easy to remove if it wasn't resorbable?
And that's a great point. That was one of the concerns or questions that they asked us.
I'm worried about fluid flow and exudate management and the basic things we worry about in wound care.
Yes, and even in the patient application, if it doesn't degrade in a certain time frame, and you have to change the dressings, let's say every 4 to 7 days in the patients, those were some of the questions that we were asked by the reviewers. But this is a great point, and it's so cool because you can draw it as a sheet. It almost looks like your aluminum foil. With different porosities, so we can definitely insert it into sponge that's already approved to be placed in a wound.
Will I also get better Wi-Fi signal with my phone with a wound? I'm just kidding. So, tell me just where you guys go into conferences coming up, and what I'd love to have you guys consider is, I don't know how often you do group meeting. To do papers, we do it once a month. But I don't know when you guys do your group meeting, if we could find a day that we could share papers and rotate. Obviously, my stuff will be more focused on something translational, and your stuff is really, practical and doing really cool science that we don't get to do. So, if you ever want to have a kind of a small journal club together, and maybe we'll rope Kyle in as well. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
No, I would love to have that, just to get the students exposed to product development, regulatory stuff, clinical stuff. Like, when you take your bench side, product that you've been working for so many years to prove a mechanism, what are the next steps? I think it'll be super cool.
I can't tell you how many clinical wounds I looked at today. I've got 3 posters, a paper, and I'm giving a talk on Thursday in New Orleans, so my homework is not done. I haven't even done my slides for Thursday yet. Wow. I'm probably going to do that after this. So tell me, where are you going to IWH or this year? Or?
I really do want to go. I love that meeting. Jordan, have you been to the IWH meeting?
It's fun. I don't know if there's any room in the hotel. I'm a sponsor, but I haven't booked my hotel yet. I've just been so busy.
One of the best conferences, because the way they program it, they intentionally leave gaps for networking. So you have like 4 hours on afternoon off, or it's all in that Key West in one resort. So people can get together, actually connect with your collaborators and your industry partners. I've enjoyed the conference. Last year was my first time, and I want to go back this year. It's just matter of figuring out if
Time.
the dates will line up.
Hmm.
Right.
But
And you get to go deep sea fishing with me if you go. I usually go on a boat. They do go snorkeling, but I spend the 4 hours taking people fishing, and if we catch enough fish, we bring them to a restaurant, and then we'll cook them for dinner.
yeah, I
So
heard great things about that. The deep sea fishing stuff with
we've
you.
we've had a blast. Oh my gosh. Sometimes we don't catch fish. Last year was embarrassing. The bait was so frozen, I couldn't cut it up so we could actually catch the little minnows so that we could catch fish. And the swells, the waves last year, I woke up at 1 in the morning and I looked at the waves. They were 20 feet. And
Oh,
I called the captain first thing in the morning. He said, "Are you sure I can bring my clients out on this boat?" He goes, "Only 5, 10 foot swells. You're going to be fine." We get out there and it's 15-foot swells, and two of my clients got violently ill at the back of the boat. And then the sad thing for me was I had brand new shoes and I wore them and there was chum all over everything. And then
oh, it's just chum. That's
no, it's terrible. I get home on the plane and I'm like, what is that awful smell? And I said, oh crap, it's my brand new boat shoes. So now I have
you're
rubber.
really selling this, Mitch.
Oh
You're
my
really
God,
selling
it's
this.
terrible. But now I have, they're not Crocs. They look like Converse sneakers, but they're completely rubber and they have holes in them. So I can just wash them off. So I use them for fishing now. But I was so embarrassed. I was like, what is that terrible smell? And then I found out it was me and it was in the front row. It was
No,
awful.
I heard fun stories over the years about this, the deep sea fishing. The other thing I wanted to talk about was this ETRS meeting specifically. That so as a mid-career awardee, um, the Wound Healing Society gives us reimburses us for presenting our
Yeah.
work at a conference of their choice. In the last 3 years, it's always been ETRS.
Yeah.
And this year I got to go to Cardiff,
Great.
and it was a great meeting. ETRS, I went there for different occasions. The first time I went was when I was the young investigator for the Wound Healing
Yeah.
Society, and I went to Greece to give a talk in Athens. That was almost 12 years ago.
Wow.
And then last couple of years ago, I went because one of our fellows got accepted to go and present, but he was not able to go. He went back to clinic, so I went there, and this year it was my turn to go and present. It's a small meeting, and it's all in one room, tandem sessions. There is no overlapping, and you get to meet with the researchers from Europe. And I've seen a lot of researchers even from South America present at that
Neat.
meeting,
Neat.
and it's a great collaborative platform. And the science is amazing, and they have so much focus on translation and taking products to industry. It's just been eye-opening to see how things are done in Europe or compare them to the FDA regulatory process in US. And I definitely, I encourage people to at least go to the ETRS, every few years.
I do love Yuma because every year it's a different country, right? A different city, and um, uh, we've been to Barcelona, we've been to London, Paris, and it's in Bremen this year. I'm not a huge fan of Bremen. I've been a bunch of times for other conferences. It's not my first go-to conference. Um, the other conferences that I've been more involved in are now more business to business. So it's if you ever want to come to the Boston, it's usually the second week of July. It's interesting because you get to see all these little companies scrambling to show their wares, and it's a lot of these things were publications we read just a year or two or three ago, and now they're little fledgling companies that we're trying to help.
That's
So
cool.
that's been really fun. And I think Kyle went to one once, but we've had some really good, um, uh, you know, relationships formed at these conferences. I think it's a blast. I think we've taken way too much time So we have to run. Most of these normally go like 15 minutes, and we probably could have gone for an hour. But Swathi, congratulations on your award. We're so proud of you. You're an amazing human being. And I can't wait to get together, and we're signing all our paperwork so that we can start collaborating on more projects, because there's coming a time when we don't have enough bandwidth on our mouse studies, and I don't want to hire 30 people. I think 15 is enough. So I would like to, you're so good at what you do. If we had overflow and you could help us, it'd be amazing. So
I look forward to working with you.
Great. Jordan,
Thank
great
you.
to see you. And
Jordan,
please, I'll
so
send
much
you
for
when we do
calling.
our journal club. And if you wanted, if you want to pick a time that works, it'd be fun. Even if we only did it 4 times a year, it'd be great for the people in my lab that don't always, they're so focused on their one project, and then as soon as they don't see they don't have that great academic atmosphere when they're in my lab. They just see me all the time, and that's not enough. So getting some, exposure to really good labs would be great for them. Anyway,
It seems like something that we could task the Young Professionals Network with organizing. I think it'd be a really good opportunity for them, and give them a little bit of a leadership role in that
like
too.
mini clusters, and kind of promote our cluster and say, hey, maybe we could do this all around the country, and even overseas if we could do something early in the day.
I think that's great.
Yeah,
I think it's a great idea.
Thank you. Great to see you both.
Yeah, I would love to be
Great to
part
see
of
you
that.
guys.
Very important. That's a great point.